This meeting of the Humanist Society, and we're here I'd like to welcome our two guests today. We have Tory Christman and Barbara Graham, who will be speaking, and I'd like to just perhaps, if we could, set a couple of little ground rules. Now we have members from the Church of Scientology who are here as guests, and so what the format of the meeting will be is that we'll have our two guests present their point of view, and then anyone that would care to discuss or ask questions or offer any rebuttals, we'll do that later. But it's probably a good idea that our guests make their presentation in total without interruption, and then we can discuss afterwards anything that anyone might take issue with. So thank you once again for being here, and I'll turn the microphone now over to Barbara Graham.
Good afternoon. No, this is not on. It's not a microphone. It goes right to the camera. Okay. Those of you who have the handouts, I'd like to start first with the current structure of the Church of Scientology. That would be the colored handout.
Are you going to introduce me or what?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. This is Tory Christman. She's an ex-Scientologist, very high level. Was in for 30 years and out for how many? 3, 4?
I began waking up in 1990, and I left in July 18th of 2000. And I just want to clarify, thank you. I just want to clarify the difference in Barb and I, so that you understand that, and it's a pretty cool story, just briefly. Is that all right?
Yeah, go ahead.
I basically was in Scientology, doing Scientology. These are two Scientologists who are actively in Scientology. I am not. I left. About in the middle of the 90s, some people were on the internet who had left Scientology, and they were talking about different stories. And the Office of Special Affairs, which I was a volunteer for 20 years, didn't like that. Okay, is that it? Testing? Okay. The Office of Special Affairs didn't like that these people were on the internet talking about some of their secrets. So they put in a cancel command in the internet to basically cancel the entire news group. And people around the world that were computer geeks went, wait a second, we don't know anything about Scientology, but you can't cancel anything on the internet. So Scientology, being brilliant like they are, started attacking them. And the more they attacked them, the more people got interested in it, the bigger it became. And now the person who helped me is in Norway and has a huge website up that when I was in Scientology, I thought he was like the devil. But when I met him, he was like actually one of the nicest people I know. He's very smart. A lot of people, just like Barb, study Scientology, and they actually understand a lot about it. So she is known as what we call a critic, which is someone who's just, has studied Scientology, talks about it, speaks out about it, and actually helps a lot of people because they hear the other side of it that when you used to be in Scientology, you could never hear. Because they won't, if you ever speak out against it, you're declared what they call a suppressive person, which I am now, and no one will talk to me. These guys are talking to me. It's a very rare occasion that a Scientologist will talk to another suppressive person. And I've been out 4 years, and I'd say one Scientologist has spoken to me in 4 years, just to give you an idea. I lost my husband of 27 years. I lost all my friends of 30 years. It's a very intense thing. So anyway, this is Barb, and I just wanted to say thank you for all that you've done. And the critics are very valuable, incredible people, and they've helped a lot of people understand the other side of Scientology. You're on the air.
I'm on the air. Okay, with this chart, this is a fairly current chart, although there are a couple new groups coming up. The Earth Org, which focuses on environmental issues. It's a Scientology front group.
I told him that twice already.
Galaxy Press, that's kind of a new one, which differentiates between the science fiction that Hubbard wrote and the Scientology materials that Hubbard wrote. Galaxy handles the fiction. Bridge Publications handles the books and the manuals. So, the reason this org chart was different back in the day.
I'll be Vanna White
No, thank you.
for the camera.
Now,
Different.
yeah, I think he knows.
I know. I'm just
Now,
doing
the
it.
Church of Spiritual Technology was incorporated in 1982. This was a big change, and this came about after this horrendous great renaming. Back in the 70s, the FBI raided Scientology offices and found reams and reams of stolen government documents. As a result, the Guardian's office, which was part of Scientology's Department 20, which handles public relations, and also the Dirty Tricks Department, they disbanded the Guardian's office, renamed it the Office of Special Affairs, and that's what it is today. Now, following this, the FBI raids, the church's original family of corporate and administrative bodies were thrown into chaos. After, this was called Operation Snow White. This was named, they wanted to have snow white hands, you know, clean hands, so they sent people in to government offices to steal documents that were related to Scientology. Well, this was found out. The Guardian's office was disbanded. They said, oh, well, we fired all these people from the GO, but oddly enough, the same names are now showing up in the Office of Special Affairs. They didn't get rid of them at all. So what you have here to understand this, I know you've heard of Narconon. There was that big article in the magazine a couple months ago. So the Church of Spiritual Technology was incorporated in '82. That is responsible for all Hubbard copyrights. The Religious Technology Center is responsible for all Scientology trademarks. David Miscavige is chairman of the board of RTC. Now, under these two entities, we have a kind of a linear thing going. There's the Church of Scientology International, which authorizes and supervises use of Hubbard materials and trademarks. Underneath that is the International Management Watchdog Committee, supreme management organization for all of Scientology. Now, do you want to handle these two, or the Flag Command Bureaus and the Continental Liaison Offices?
No.
Okay. Not sure about that. But when you get down to ABLE, the Association for Better Living and Education, they're responsible for the secular trademarks. That's Narconon, Criminon, Applied Scholastics.
I do have something to add, though.
Okay.
Okay, so just so that I got in 1969 in Scientology. Back then, Hubbard had a thing called the bridge, and they still have it, the Bridge to Total Freedom. It's like a bridge to total freedom, right? That's what they said. You get on it, you work across the bridge to total freedom, and there you are. Now, when I got in, it was basically L. Ron Hubbard, a little bit of management, Class 8, which is training, you know, how to, like a counselor, Class 6, you know, the different various levels, the orgs, missions, and the missions were at the bottom, right? When the missions were things that got people into Scientology. What Barb is talking about, in the 80s, it switched. Hubbard died. Miscavige took over Scientology, and literally they came out with the chain of commands of Scientology. And it was a book. I mean, I remember seeing it, and it was like, this much of it is management. It's like David Miscavige and RTC, upper management, middle management, lower management, this and that. And then down here is like training, some other stuff, the missions. Like about this much of it is actually helping people. The rest of it is all this management stuff. So it really flipped from their original, what they were doing, which was getting people in, helping them with different things. And now it's more like, and one thing I will say, because a lot of people ask me, they go, well, I met Scientologists, they're really nice people. And I will say most Scientologists that I know are really nice people. They are. They're not bad people. But the management are definitely doing some creepy things that the people that are in Scientology don't know about. And they don't want to know about it. And if you said, read this, even if they read it, they won't get it. So anyway.
Yeah. So when we get down to the Association for Better Living and Education, the secular trademarks, basically these things incorporate classes that public Scientologists pay for, such as Narconon. Narconon involves a ritual called purification rundown that's meant to detoxify you. You spend hours in a sauna, you take glasses of cooking oil and a lot of vitamins, and this is supposed to purify you. What do they charge for that?
Let's ask the Scientologists. How much is the Pura?
I'm guessing around $3,000.
3,000?
I'm guessing it. It's a
That's-
long time since I've done it.
Okay.
Okay.
By the way,
7,400?
Right, thank you. My answer to something, you do not drink glasses of oil. It's tablespoons of oil. Okay, just to be clear on this.
Thank you.
Okay.
They drink more than glasses of Dade County, I can assure you.
I'm on Dade County here in San Diego.
Okay.
It's
well,
enough that it's bad, whatever it is. I know from doing it. Well,
It is bad.
It works.
okay.
Okay, there's
It doesn't really.
Killed 17 people so far.
Yeah, there's a lot of, there's some people it works on. That's how Scientology is. Some of it works. But then there's negatives like me who had a medical illness, and it did a lot of damage to me. A lot of it. I know a friend who went blind on the Purif because she had diabetes. I mean, there's, so you can say, I know, but I nearly died because of what they did with me with medicine. And you know that?
I'm really
But-
sorry about that, man, but there's millions of people that have been hellfire.
And that's the pitch I used to give. I know it, man. I know it. It is a pitch. Okay. No.
Show us your data or documentation on the
Well,
millions.
if I knew you were
No,
a
no.
pastor, I would have brought data. I'm just telling you, you give me just data.
Let's stick with him.
Gentlemen, could we go back to the
Yeah.
Exactly,
the
that'd be
meeting,
sweet.
please?
We'll go back.
Let's go ahead, and then this will be appropriate later.
Okay.
Let's go ahead with the presentation, please.
Okay, now Narconon, they have courses that are identical to the courses purchased by public Scientologists. Also, the purification rundown is part of Scientology. You have to get detoxified in order to, maximize the benefits of Scientology training. Now, Narconon has sort of a subgroup called Second Chance that's kind of under Criminon too. Criminon is a program that goes into prisons, oftentimes at taxpayers' expense. Second Chance is also one of these. The National Foundation for Women Legislators has pushed Second Chance. They've tried it in Arizona, it got shot down. They tried it in New Mexico, or Nevada, that got shut down. New Mexico, I think they're still trying, and I know they tried in Utah to get Second Chance brought into the prisons at tax expense. Does Narconon work? Some people would say yes. However, on the list of suggested readings, there's a website called narcononexposed.org, which is very well laid out, very well referenced and documented observation of Narconon from a secular or WOG point of view.
They don't know what
WOGs
WOG
being
is.
non-Scientologists. Welcome to the WOG world.
That's what Hubbard called non-Scientologists.
Yeah,
And Scientologists.
we be WOGs. Anyways,
WOG.
WOG.
Applied Scholastics, that's like Delphi schools, other
The study tech.
educational things that uses the study tech. And there's also a website that takes that apart, which is called studytech.org.
I think so.
Yeah, it's Dr. Dave. And the Way to Happiness Foundation. The Way to Happiness Foundation is, well, they put out these booklets that are basically kind of rules to live by.
Can I say something about
Yes.
that? The Way to Happiness is one of the things Hubbard came up with, which is a secular thing, non-religious supposedly. They're basically good principles. They're not bad principles. Where it breaks down is they basically go to doctors, dentists, people in a community. They get them to pay thousands of dollars to have their name on the back of the Way to Happiness booklet, which, you know, they first survey, find out what is the button of the community, and then they'll go to the doctor and say, you know, the kids are worried about drugs. You know, you care about them. How about if we'll get out, you know, thousands of these booklets? But what actually happens is now that looks like Dr. So-and-so is for Scientology, right? Because they find out Way to Happiness has a connection with that. And also he's paying to get these booklets out. Now, a true story, this happened to me about 6 months ago. There was a movie that came out at Grauman's Theater in Hollywood. I went to it. It was about a bunch of black singers, right? I came outside afterwards, and one of the first principles in Way to Happiness is always tell the truth. I came outside and I saw a guy in a blue uniform surveying a bunch of black kids with photographs. And I thought, this is a Scientologist, right? Doing the Way to Happiness trick. So I said, you're a Scientologist, aren't you? And he said, I'm with Way to Happiness. And I said, you know what? Don't lie to these kids. You're a Scientologist. And the first principle of Way to Happiness is always tell the truth. Now tell these kids who you are. He said, okay, I'm a Scientologist. Right? I went down the street. The same thing happened with another guy. I said the same conversation. So they were basically getting the buttons because they're going to go into Inglewood and start a mission there. So first they're going to get the doctors passing out the Way to Happiness. So it looks like your local doctors are for this. Now we're starting Scientology, which is with Hubbard. Well, my doctors gave me this booklet about Way to Happiness. It must be okay. You see how that goes? Yes? You see how it's a little tricky? Yeah? Huh?
Watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat.
And it's thousands of dollars. And I know a guy who used to pound the doctors on paying the money. And it's a lot of money.
Now, the thing about the ABLE umbrella, the Association for Better Living and Education, Narconon, Criminon, Applied Scholastics, they will all say this is not Scientology, it is based on the teachings of L. Ron Hubbard. But when you look closer at, say, Narconon and their program, the courses are identical to the ones that public Scientologists purchase.
Now it's like bait and switch.
So,
It is.
in a
It
sense,
is.
they are teaching Scientology, but they're trying to hide that side of it. It's like, it's a floor wax and a dessert topping. Religious when it suits them, secular when it suits them. However, this has backfired because in some cases they've failed to get government funding for programs because they're labeled religious. And there are other instances where being secular does not work to the advantage, so boom, okay, we're Scientology, we're not Scientology. It's all the same stuff. So that's something that really needs to be paid attention to. All these programs are, in fact, teaching people Hubbard's tech. Now, let's see, what can we say about L. Ron Hubbard? L. Ron Hubbard was, well, he was a science fiction writer. He did a lot of pulp writing. The first appearance of Dianetics, I think 1950, in Astounding Tales magazine, a science fiction pulp rag. It caught on like wildfire. People were auditing each other. It was a fantastic time. there was something new, you know, and a lot of people were seeking something new. The mental health community at the time was kind of horrible and frightening. So people were trying this new thing. They were co-auditing each other. The first Scientology, well, it wasn't Scientology, but the first establishment was Washington, D.C. or New Jersey?
I don't know, one or the other.
Jersey. And that was back in, I believe, 1950.
Yeah, it was 1950.
And it gradually started to spread, and then it stalled. It began to stagnate. There were problems with some of Hubbard's partners and copyrights. Hubbard decided to pull out of that gig. He had a partnership with a doctor. Pulled out of that and reinvented his work as Scientology, a religion.
Make sure you talk to these people too.
As opposed to a religious,
Philosophy.
Dianetics, Modern Science of Mental Health, it started out
Right.
as. And now it was the Church of Scientology. And he said, you know, if he realized, you know, if you want to make money, start a religion.
why write for a penny a word?
Exactly. Start a religion.
And it worked.
Here's the cross that I brought this to wear. This is their Scientology cross. We all became ministers overnight. This was when they wanted to shift the gears of the organization because of lawsuits and things. Overnight, we all were told, you're doing a minister's course, you're going to become ministers, and we became ministers in 1 week's time. We did a mass ordination, and we were ministers. We could marry people. I don't still wear it. I wore it to show you. Just to show you. This is their cross. Yes.
At the time when Hubbard was selling the e-meter, it was promoted as a health device, not a religion.
Right.
Then the Food and Drug Administration said, you can't do that.
Right.
That's why he turned it into a religion, because you get very strong, every religion gets very strong defenses under the First Amendment.
Right.
Of course, we know how valid the FDA is, but the reason is...
Well, I'm a physicist, and trust me, that e-meter was the laughing stock of informed people. It's basically discredited. It never had any credit. It's basically similar. It simply measures skin electrical resistance, similar to the old discredited lie detector machine. So, translating Dianetics into a religion was just a means of avoiding the control of the Food and Drug Administration.
Thank you.
And it didn't measure galvanic resistance accurately either.
However, the FDA, after they had this trouble, you know, that I think in Dianetics it says, you know, all the wonderful things. The FDA requires e-meters to have this sticker. By itself, this meter does nothing. It is solely for the guide of ministers of the church in confessionals and pastoral counseling. The electrometer is not medically or scientifically useful for the diagnosis, treatment, or prevention of any disease. It is not medically or scientifically capable of improving the health or bodily function of anyone, and is for religious use by students and ministers of the Church of Scientology only.
Now, time out. Just on that, you just heard that, what it says on their meter, which they use in every confessional, every time they have auditing, they use this meter. I, getting in 1969, joined Hubbard's Sea Organization, which was out on a ship, and he considered it his top group of people that he worked with. And they quickly said, after about a month, I said, I need to order my medication. I have epilepsy, I need to take medication. And they routed me to some yo-ho who was not trained at all in medicine, who said, you are not fit for the Sea Org, you have to get off all of your medication to be in the Sea Org. And here's your program with all these vitamins and things like that. And I ended up having grand mal seizures in their orgs for quite a long time. Luckily, thank God, my mother kept calling me and saying, Tory, they are going to kill you. You are going to die. you have to take your medication. Now they, on the other hand, were saying Dianetics will handle this, even though that says what it says. And all the way through, I left in 2000, I fought their top organization, which is FLAG, and ended up getting... I'll wait till you're done. Okay. Anyway, they have a top organization called the Flag Land Base in Clearwater, Florida. And I was there. They tried to throw me off the Flag Land Base and say, you're not... A 15-year-old kid said, you're not allowed on the Flag Land Base. I said, are you talking to me? I did the taxi driver thing, right? I just kept saying, you talking to me? Anyway, long story short, after months of blah, 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 I ended up getting all of them crammed or corrected on medication, even though obviously it wasn't fully, because about a year later, Lisa McPherson died at their hands at the Flag Land Base after 17 days of being locked in a room. But anyway, that's just a little personal aside when they say this is not for medical, things. They do it all the time. They do. They have signs all over their organization saying, this is not, and see your doctor. But I know personally from being behind closed doors and from reading their top materials, which have to do with physically handling the body, which is their knots, new, Dianetics for OTs.